Dave Palumbo here with an RxMuscle news update. The Pittsburgh Pro Championships Classic Physique division is in the history books now, and we have a new champion in the way of Steve Laureus, one of the most highly touted talents in the Classic Physique division. He's been called the next coming of the Olympia champ, possibly. He's been called one of the most gifted, genetically perfect athletes in the division. His waist is teeny tiny. He's got the flaring delts. He's got the great lats. He's got great muscle insertions. I mean, when he didn't win the North American Championships last year to turn pro and he had to play second to get the pro card, people were pretty disappointed. I was too. He wasn't at his best. He certainly was a little off, but you can see that this guy has every tool you could possibly need for that classic division, and maybe even the open division if he decides to put more size on, because this is a guy that's been competing for a long time. However, the controversy occurred this coming weekend, or this past weekend I should say, in Pittsburgh, when Divine Wilson and Steve Laureus went head-to-head. They were in that last call-out in the prejudging, mano-a-mano, pose for pose, and arguments could be made that either guy could have emerged victorious. You could make the argument that Divine was harder, more polished looking, more dynamic on stage the way he posed. He brought his A game, probably the best he could be. And then you can make the argument that Steve Laureus was more genetically gifted, better insertions. He was in very good conditioning, although his tan was off. He seemed less than enthusiastic on stage, okay? It seemed like there was just not a lot, going on there. Like maybe I don't know if he wasn't sure of himself. I mean, the guy hasn't competed in that many shows, so you have to understand that there is, a level of expertise that's just not there yet. He's really, he's competed before, but this is, his first pro show. Obviously, there's going to be some nervousness there. His conditioning was there, but he was flat. Okay, when you're flat, things don't pop as much. So some people, the camp who believe Divine Wilson should have won, are saying that Divine was better than him that day. The camp that would talk, about Steve Laureus winning, including the judges, since the judges picked him first, have to say that here's a guy who's in great shape. He's got a tremendous structure. He hits these classic poses like if you had to write a book on what classic physique is, you'd put him in there. Divine Wilson's a little unconventional in the way he hits his poses, almost a la Kai Green a little bit. And the bottom line is, what do you like better? What do you like better? The judges like Steve Laureus better. I wasn't there in person, so it's hard for me to make that call. I happen to like Steve Laureus' physique better. Do I think he was in the best shape he possibly could have in terms of everything, clicking and peaking at the right time? No. Do I think his tan was terrible, even for a guy who's black? Yeah. And I know for a fact, his coach Justin Miller is a friend of mine, told me that they just started the tanning process too late. They drove there from New York to Pittsburgh, which is never drive that. Never drive 8 hours when you're going to compete. Number one mistake they made. But I think he did enough to pull it off. I think that Divine looked amazing. I hope that they're both going to show up in New York for a rematch. The thing that I didn't like, and this is where the controversy occurred, when you watch when the placings are being called out, or actually after the placings have been called, they're hitting some, they always have the winners, top 5, hit the mandatory, some mandatory poses for pictures. Divine Wilson is obviously very upset with the decision. He's not even hitting a pose in a few of these poses as the photographers are taking the pictures, and then all of a sudden he takes his medal off and he walks off stage. Now, right off the bat, everything good that he just did at that show, showing up at his best, giving this guy Steve a run for his money right down to the wire, having the fans believe, at least some of them, that he should have won, that was all the good stuff that was behind him. When you become a poor sportsman, however, that's when things go right into the toilet and you lose all your credibility. And people, they're almost happy you didn't do well. Because you know what? How you lose is more important than how you win. And I'll tell you why. Because everyone out there is a good winner. Who doesn't want to win? Well, who's going to be a bad winner? It's how you lose, and lose with dignity. And look, believe me, I've lost plenty of shows in my day. And some of the shows I probably should have lost, and some of the shows I shouldn't have lost. But you never saw me be a bad sportsman. You never saw me, throw myself. You never saw me not shake the winner's hands. You never saw me run off stage and start breaking things backstage. because that's not who I am. I believe that you should, you have to be a person who conducts yourself with dignity. That doesn't mean I might not go and write about it or talk about it at a later date, but you never do anything when you're hot-headed right when you get off stage, because you're always going to make the wrong decision because you're allowing your emotions to dictate your actions. And that's not the smartest thing to do, especially in a sport that you're going to be judged by these same judges 2 weeks later in New York. So, bad move on his part. I think that people can understand that he was upset. That's the sport. It's close. When things are close like that, one person's not going to be happy about the outcome. Believe me, I'm sure Steve Laureus wouldn't have been happy if he would have lost either. So the best thing that can happen for the sport would be that these two guys square off again in New York. Hopefully, Laureus will beat his best, Divine will beat his best, and we'll see another battle on that New York Pro stage that'll, if the New York fans don't like the decision, you'll hear it from those fans, believe me, because that's the way it goes. And who knows? Maybe Divine will come out on top if Steve doesn't bring his A game. So once again, excitement in Pittsburgh this past weekend. Divine Wilson versus Steve Laureus. Once again, this Classic Physique division is getting a lot of hype. They're getting a lot of momentum behind them. The physiques are getting unbelievable. And I like to see excitement. I like to see, guys that are emotionally charged go at each other. But once again, Divine, look, we all forgive you, man. We know how it is. It sucks losing, especially when it's very close like that. Show up in New York better than ever, and let's see the rematch of the century. So as you can see, Divine Wilson did apologize to the judges, to the fans, to the IFBB after his little emotionally charged, I guess you could say, brain fart. And it happens, guys lose their mind, on stage, especially when they think that they're going to win a show. It's great to see that Divine was able to get up on that stage in Pittsburgh and issue the apology. And once again, let's just put this all behind us. I'm Dave Palumbo with RxMuscle News Update.